definitely want this to be a conversation. I know we have some folks on the call that have done trades days before. I know we have some people that have not done them. And so we want to have a conversation with you guys all together. But before I do that, I'm Stephanie. I am Director of Development and Strategic Partnerships for ACE National. And we're going to walk through kind of what the trades days look like, who attends them, what the funding looks like, and how to get your hands on some of that funding. So unfortunately, I still cannot tell you where we got this grant from. It's still embargoed, which is making me insane. But hopefully soon by the end of this month or early next month, we'll be able to tell you, because part of the grant will be getting those folks involved with whatever trades day you put together. So I'll get started, and Paulette's going to help me out a little bit too. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is Trades Day, right? So we know what the ACE program looks like regularly. We know that our students love hands-on projects. And so Trades Day, it's not a job fair, it's not a trade show, it's not like something where a kid goes to a booth and gets a bunch of tchotchkes and puts it in a bag and goes home. It is really like hands-on activities, rotating between different stations, kind of depending on what partners you have. And again, when we open it up for discussion, we can talk about that. But whatever partners you have, you can put together an electrical box, or you can lay brick, or you can, do some VR stuff, which is really cool, which we saw in Houston this past week. So Trades Day is really meant to be hands-on, and it's really meant to give these students an idea of the pathway that they could choose. The purpose of the day is to give maximum exposure, right? So busing students in, getting all the kids from your program to one space, preferably outdoors, considering the current climate. But getting all the students in your program together, it's great for networking for the students. And Paulette will talk a little bit about it in a minute about who else should attend. But the outcome of the event really, if it's in the spring, I think it's a great celebration of ACE and all the things we've learned during the course of the year. And if it's in the fall, maybe it's a kickoff meeting. Maybe we start our ACE program with a Trades Day, which we think could really be a fantastic recruiting opportunity. Paulette, I'm going to toss it over to you to talk about who attends, and I'll mute myself for just a minute.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks for joining today. We're trying to implement more and more of the trades into our program. So, I like to suggest as well, like adding it into your lessons and doing all kinds of things. But for these trades days, who can attend? Think outside the box, invite whoever, of course, your mentees, your mentors, your volunteers. This could also be like when Stephanie was saying, a kickoff event. So maybe it's if there's a bus at a school that has a few ACE students, go ahead and fill that bus up with other students for this day. We would really like to make this, as big as possible for you. I know it's a lot of planning goes into these days. So again, let's invite as many people as possible to show off all of your hard work. This is a list of, some different people that you can invite. We'll be sending these slides out later, so I won't go through all of those. But yeah, just think about whoever, you have sponsors, you have people that are reaching out to you all the time wanting to learn about ACE. This is a great day to do that. Next slide. Now, who participates? So of course, your ACE mentees, if you have any future mentees, anyone that you would want to reach out to. Again, I've seen buses show up to Trades Days with just a couple of kids on there. If a teacher is bringing a few kids from a school, let's fill that bus up and make sure all of those students get this invitation to this event. ACE family, adults in the students' lives, parents, community members, volunteers, donors, anyone that would like to volunteer for the day is also, sometimes you have those folks that reach out to ACE that, they don't have a lot of time to commit, but this is one day. It's a really, really fun day as well. Next slide. What does an ACE day look like? So this is, like Stephanie said, this is not something where the students go and they're getting a bunch of stickers thrown at them and sign-up sheets and no actual hands-on activities. These should be all hands-on activities for these students. So there should be multiple stations that they go around to. If you're having as a community event, you should maybe have some other activities that students that can't, younger siblings maybe that can't participate in the actual activities, maybe like a cornhole setup. We were just at one last weekend. Music or a DJ is really, really important, like an MC. This was part inside, part outside. So having that music really, created the community, and it was just a nice touch to have that person there with all of that. Also, plenty of restrooms and trash recycle bins. Food is always good to have at these events. And with that, I'm going to go back to Stephanie, and she's going to talk to you about how to fund your trades day, the important part.
Yeah, so yeah, the part everybody's waiting for, right? So like we mentioned a bunch of times before, we do have $100,000. We've been told to expand our trades days past the 4 or 5 that already do it and try to reach 20 to 30 affiliates in terms of funding. Our preference to fund is transportation. Like Paulette said, that seems to be the largest barrier. A lot of the other things that we can get, because we have such amazing partners and we know that you have so many great local partners, we feel like the actual trade exhibits, the space, the food, the PPE, all those things, we can probably find a way to get those donated in kind, or at least sponsored by local or national firms, whoever that is. So like I said, our preference would be to fund transportation. But however, that being said, once you've put your budget together, and we can talk about that in our open discussion, we'll look at it together and we'll decide what is the best thing for us to fund. There is an application. It's really just for us to collect data for our donor. So you see the application here. At the conclusion of this, we're going to package up this with the recording, and we have a new page on our tools site that will have the subgrant application and all this information there for you. So it'll be packaged up. We do want a budget though. We want to know what percentage we're funding. If your budget is 10,000 and your transportation is 2,500, we just want to know that and want to be able to report that back. A list of existing partners, just because in addition to the donor, we also have some national partners that have offered space. So we have Limbach, we have Johnson Controls, API Group, Ferguson Enterprises. Those groups, we originally tried to say, well, tell us your locations. And all of them were like, we want every single one. And so like, okay, well, that's not going to work. So instead of doing it that way, we want you to fill out the form, tell us where you are, what you need. We'll go back to those partners and ask them for specific sites. I think that'd be a lot easier. Johnson Controls had 1,200 sites and they wanted to host a trades day at every one, which is a little unreasonable. So, and the only requirement of the grant from our donor is a post survey. So I know he talked earlier about a pre and post, but we're just going to stick with the post survey, which we have developed. And so what we'll do with that, we'll provide you the link. After the event, once you've collected everybody's information who attended, you can send the post survey out. There will be a field for affiliate name. So we will sort it by affiliate and provide that to you after, and we'll provide a cumulative report to the donor. And next slide, I'm doing my first presentation in Canva, so please bear with me. Okay, so some resources that we've provided. Like I said, they're all packaged up on tools. The background of these slides is kind of our theme for the flyers. We do have the Trades Day flyer, one for students and one for firms. And you'll note that it's blank there. It's because that's the space for your logo. It's also a space at the bottom for any of your partners that you want to put on there. So it is editable. And we'll be providing some social media templates and some press releases as soon as we're allowed to talk about it, which hopefully is in a couple of weeks. And then eventually there will be a co-branded logo that will be an ACE logo with the donor, but I don't anticipate that in the next couple of weeks. And then that's the post survey I talked about. It's very short. It's just like a few little questions, and we can talk with your RDs about how the best way to get those out and get those answered.
So yeah, so after the event, everyone's going to be really excited. We want to make sure that those students have the information that they have, that maybe they didn't collect. So maybe providing information on the firms that were there, info on the contacts that for those different firms, talking about trade scholarships and different ways to do a trade scholarship, apprenticeship information, and maybe just also talking about, there's different paths, like you can go straight into the trades or you can go to an apprenticeship program. At ACE, we want to definitely talk about all the different pathways to get into the industry. We often talk about there's just trades or just college, but in between there, they can also go to work for a firm and go to school along the way as well. So we just really want to start talking about the trades more inclusively. For example, the Super Bowl was just this week. That would be an awesome opportunity to talk about a stadium, what goes into a stadium. It takes architects, engineers, construction managers and the trades people to make that happen. So, start talking about the trades, not as a separate item, but, kind of implementing that into all of our lessons. And then, maybe sending out some information on that afterwards as well. With that, I think we could open it up for questions. Also, this is another great way to track your alumni that are going down, going through this path, because we all know that tracking our alumni is very difficult. And this might be a way to help and stay in contact with them as well.
Thanks, Paulette. So we wanted to open it up. So we got a small group today for conversation for what you're planning to do, what you're already doing, questions about funding. I just asked that you raise your hand so I can call on you since we have lots of people. I thought that might be the easiest way. Oh, but people are already trained to use the chat box, which is also great. So the timeline, Chris asked about the timeline. That is this calendar year. So it can be any time between now and the end of December. I do have to do a mid-year report to them in August. So I'm hoping some folks will choose to do it in the spring. I know Nicole's on this call. I know they're doing one in a few weeks, actually. Second question is the maximum amount. No, I do not have a maximum amount. It's going to totally depend on what budget you submit and how many in-kind sponsors we can use. I will say we'd like it to be in the $5,000 range, but also kind of depends where you are and what your transportation costs look like. Feel free to raise your hand too to chat with me. You don't have to all type it if you don't want to.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Paulette and Stephanie, sounds like a fantastic opportunity for kids to get involved. Like you said, hands-on. I represent the Rochester chapter, Rochester, New York. And as part of our 6-month syllabi, we have 2 different programs, one that focuses on buildings and one that focuses on community parks. So as part of our programs, we incorporate those hands-on activities in pretty much every class that we have during that 6-month time frame. And we are very fortunate in having a wide sponsor base, and a lot of them are contractors, where we're taking our kids to their places of work and have them, do some framing, work on sheathing a roof as a couple of examples, bending conduit at electrical contractors local. So we're doing a lot of these things as part of our program already. I see the advantage of some chapters are not utilizing a more hands-on approach, and that this day gives them that opportunity. So I think for us to do something like that would probably be redundant to what we're already doing and just holding or identifying one day for this, because we're trying to incorporate that. Because we know the kids are coming out of school, they don't want to sit and hear someone lecture for 2 hours or just maybe work on a design assignment. So we are incorporating a lot of the hands-on building type of opportunities for our kids. And that's been one of the real successes of our program. So just wanted to share that.
Well, let's talk about that too, because maybe there's an opportunity for us to fund some stuff there too with this grant. Probably a requirement would be the post survey for sure. And then maybe getting some of the donors, volunteers involved, but don't count yourself out of the funding, because you might still apply to you.
Okay, great. That's good to know. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I saw a question. I see Sherry's hand is up, but hold on one sec, because I saw a question about both from LA and from New York about is it for only transportation? No, it is not only for transportation. That is our preference, because I know that is a barrier in a lot of places that don't have great mass transit. But no, it's not a requirement. So when you submit your budget, we'll just go through it together with you and decide what the donor would most like to see funded. And then how far in advance would we have to submit the proposal before the event? Also a really good question. I would love to have an event date as soon as I could, but in terms of the budget and the proposal, that can be on a calendar year. So, if you decide I think August is the time frame for our event, I could report that back and you could get me a budget when you're ready. I saw, is it Sherry or Cherie maybe?
It's Cherie. Good job. And I'm sorry, my video, I need an IT help because my video keeps dropping. So, just a question. We're trying to put together the Trades Day, and I think it's a great idea. And I know it just depends on how quick we get volunteers to respond. But what I'm concerned about is I'm in Florida. Our last day of school is May 26th, and we were thinking we were going to shoot for a Saturday in April. I'm still getting a little nervous because we haven't pulled anything together yet. I just wanted to hear from people that have done it, how quick they can turn around getting people together and what kind of lead times they give themselves to start the process and then actually get to the date. So.
Right. Look at Nicole and ask if Nicole wants to answer that. Do you?
As far as coordinating, it really hasn't been difficult. I'm not sure what your supporter base looks like already, but all of our supporters that we would ask to be at the event have said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we are hosting ours during the weekday. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I think any of your current supporters would want to get their word out, get in front of the students. So as far as coordination, I think April is a reasonable time frame. That gives you at least 2 months. So I think that's doable.
Also, where in Florida are you exactly?
West Palm Beach County, and Martin County is our affiliate.
Because we also have these national partners that really do want to get involved in Florida in general. I think hopefully Nicole, some folks got involved with you. Yeah, so if you want to send me a note about that, I can see if one of them would be willing to host, and that might kick it off quicker.
Okay, that sounds great. And I just a follow up to that is we were assuming Saturday just because of kids' schedules and things like that, and trying to figure out logistics to get them there. But how do you do it during the week? I mean, you do it, I'm assuming, after school, and other schools just transport the kids, whether it's the teachers or parents or their mentors.
Right now, Florida specifically, I'm sure it's across the nation, has a bus driver shortage. So we're conscious not to ask the schools to provide transportation after school. So we're doing it as a field trip this year, to where the students come after their last bus drop is scheduled. So they'll come from 10. We leave before they have to get back to do their route to take the kids home. So ours is from 10 to 1. And then that way we're not scrambling trying to get bus drivers when there's already a bus shortage and a bus driver shortage.
Okay, so you're doing it during school, and then are you pulling kids from other schools too? Because that's what we're trying to do. Is we've got currently 7. Well, we had 7 schools that were active, but COVID's kind of diminished that a bit. So
yeah, we're using it as a recruitment tool since transportation was a big key component for the grant provider. We've opened it up to allow other schools or other students in the schools that we're in that might not have joined ACE for whatever reason, but are still interested in the industry to join our trades day.
Aaron, did you have a question?
Not necessarily a question, but I'm in the Lexington, Kentucky Bluegrass affiliate here, and we've got a little bit of a different model for our program. We are actually in class. So we have a former board member, former architect as an educator now, who is running a class and a program and building a pathway at a local high school. So we have a very captive 30 student audience every other day of school. So we've had what we've called a trade day for the last 4 or 5 years, where it's typically toward the spring. We're actually looking for a time to do it here yet this spring. But we bring local contractors to the students. We have a location at the school that we're in to house half a dozen different stations, from tiling to sheetrock to masonry to nail driving contest, things like that, electrical, hooking up wiring, electrical, as many as we can find. And I think we're going to find a little bit of a shortage of contractors at this point, just because all the local contractors are just so busy. But hopefully we'll find some that can give us a day or morning to come and do that. So we don't have really much expense at all. So So that's it's interesting to hear how everybody else is doing it. But we've got, like I said, we've got a little bit of a unique model for our program, being in an actual school classroom every day. So, but we find that a trade day that's very hands-on is very popular with the students. We also try and schedule construction tours, but where we take the students to an active construction site. Obviously, we keep everybody safe and in a group and all of that, all the PPE and everything. But with the current state of COVID and the need for documentation of everything, we've kind of scrapped that for this year. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it next year, because getting the students out into the field, actually see something, see behind the scenes, we find has been really advantageous and beneficial to the students.
So, if that day comes with any food costs, any material costs, definitely apply for that. I'm happy to cover that, whatever cost you have. If it's all donated, that's great. I think I saw Sue ask another question.
I have a quick question for Erin though. Erin, when you do that and you have your A students, is it everyone at that school can participate? So you have a lot of other students joining, or is it just your A students that get to participate in that?
Traditionally, it's really just been the ACE students, because we actually have. It's a good point that you bring up, because we have one of our former mentors and everything as an educator, and he's actually building an architectural style pathway, because he's got the regular ACE class, but he's also got Project Lead the Way, which is engineering based. He's developing a strictly architectural design class and everything. Inviting those students to pull them out of their other classes for that might be a really good way of increasing our numbers that way. So I think that's a great idea. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I think those architect students might like getting their hands on a hammer too.
Sue, I had earlier said the list of national partners. It is Johnson Controls, Limbach, Ferguson, and API Group, and then the donor to be named later. I can also send that out to you guys in the post email so you know who that is. And then I'm sure a lot of them would be willing to host you for sure. And I'm going to actually ask Paulette to help with the administrative question from Lauren, since I know you've run a lot of trades days in your life.
Actually, before you move on, let's not forget ABC and AGC.
Thank you. Sorry, Diana. Of course.
They both have training facilities across the country, and they would love to be involved. And then the other one is the ironworkers and the masons. If you have any of them in your area, they would love to be involved as well.
Thank you, Dan. I don't know why I keep forgetting to include them when I'm talking. But yeah, so Paulette, do you want to address Lauren's question about it?
Yeah. So what I would do with that is, we've done these for a long time out here in LA, and just having maybe at your registration center, right? You have students that are already in your database. We would have like their name badges ready, so they could just grab them and go. Their teacher, because you always have, even in that group, if they're coming with the whole group, there's always a couple of kids that aren't registered, right? So then we would just have like a separate area to do their registration separately. Something like this, I would maybe have, if they're coming with the teacher, having that consent form, field trip form pre-collected. So they have that, or if they need to show up there, if it's a community event and you're doing outreach, people are showing up with their parents, they can get that sign right there. I forgot, someone was saying on another call, they were able to access these things on their phone, so they could just register real quick right there with their parents there. So it's just having, kind of like a dual kind of registration area. If you're ACE and you're signed up and you are in, here's a super fast way you can get in and get started. If you haven't done that, here's another area that you need to go to, and always have lots of people there ready to answer questions. I know Ann in LA has also had iPads there, right there, so they could do it, registering right there. So hopefully that answers it, a little bit. And it just, with the like having the two groups, it's just having a couple more people at registration than you normally would. And then for like families, maybe like, you have A students, maybe there's some kind of, I don't know, a special name tag or a wristband or something, so you know that they can get to all the stations, that they have their permission slips in, something like that to designate them. And that's why I also recommend having like maybe a couple of tables that aren't dangerous, like a paper tower or gumdrops and things there for maybe, little like siblings that want to come. We did this to a table at an elementary school once, and it was at a STEAM fair, and it was the last table people were at. We had to get them out of there. We're like, you have to go. With an activity like that, people want to stick around. It's so exciting, like with the music and food and everything too. It's really fun.
Gary, did you have another question or comment?
Yes, I do. So one of the struggles we continually have is getting more urban kids involved in the program, and the biggest hurdle has been transportation. So what we were told at one point, because we were looking at like paying an Uber driver to pick up certain kids, but National came back and said, no, there's too much liability with that. You guys can't proceed in that fashion. So obviously we did not. But I guess in terms of this then, where you say transportation is kind of the focal point here in terms of receiving grant money, are we talking about transportation that would be done by the schools themselves, or could it be an independent means? And if it's the latter, why is that not an issue of liability?
Oh no, that might be a Diana question. Diana, are you on this call?
I can also help. So buses usually have like their own insurance and things, especially if you're using a school bus that already has the insurance. The Uber, they're not pick up anyone under 18. But buses should have their own insurance. It should be covered. But yeah, I'll also let Diana add on anything.
Yeah, no, the reason why we really say licensed bus service, because they have full insurance on their drivers. So if there is a problem or an accident, they're covered. Uber, when we looked at Uber and Lyft, basically, and if it's changed, let us know, but basically the company was not insuring their drivers. The drivers were responsible to insure themselves. And our legal team just didn't feel very comfortable with that if they truly have their own insurance and something happened, it was Uber proving it. The other thing is, on a bus, you have multiple people, and you should have at least 2 mentors, hopefully, or at least 1 mentor that's an approved mentor to protect the kids and sort of control everything. In Uber, we were hearing 2 kids in an Uber. We don't have any background check on the Uber driver. We all know there are some very bad stories with Uber. If you were to say that you were going to take a larger Uber and have 1 mentor and 6 kids, that would be something different. But the question that we got asked was like 1 or 2 kids in an Uber, and we just did not feel comfortable with that.
Okay, so we have a partner that's the University of Rochester that has their own infrastructure where they're moving not only kids, but it's affiliated with a strong medical hospital. So the campus is large, so they have their own busing. So that would be
fine.
Great.
That would be fine. And in fact, a number of people have used university transportation for these kind of things.
Fantastic.
That would be fine.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Other questions, comments, advice?
There was one more thing I wanted to bring up. Someone was asking about doing it after school or on a Saturday. I know in LA, we've done it both ways. After school, we've done it where the students, show up and it's a few hours. We've also done it at places like a stadium that was under construction. So part of that allure is getting to see the stadium right before it's done. Taking the tour is part of it's like one station. You get to take this tour that you would never get to see the stadium as a normal person. We all get to see all these things. Well, we don't, but our people in the field get to see these things, but our students don't get to, and it's really important to show these students, it's hard to, when we're doing lessons and stuff, it's a lot of these students can't even visualize these things because they haven't seen anything. So the more times you can get them exposed. So like a stadium is a really cool venue to have it. If they're open and available, there's usually a lot of space, and that tour part of it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a stadium, any kind of construction site that will host it is also pretty cool because you get to see, you could also, as you're doing those activities, you can see it in action in a real life site too. I get very excited about these trades days, so I keep on talking. Anyone wants to have a conversation? Please reach out.
She'll talk to you.
I will. I'll talk about it all day long. I love these. These days are so fun. I mean, when you see the kids there, their faces just, I mean, it really just makes, I mean, it really makes it all worth it because they just are, we were just at one this weekend and watching students with like a screw gun, just screwing things in and the VR stations. It's just really exciting, especially after the last few years that we've all had. It was really, really fun to see this all happening.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we'll put together the whole package. I'll also include the list of partners in that package as well, so you have that. And then once folks start filling out the application, then we can kind of connect you to the partners in your area. Did you have another question, Gary? Before?
No, I was just going to add what Paulette was saying. We do a separate, it's a concrete forming day where it happens kind of where our program starts in October. So we kind of do it late October, early November, and sometimes weather's an issue here in upstate New York, but we have 3 or 4 contractors that participate and we divide all of our mentees into teams and they compete against one another to build these forms to pour for footings. And we've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years where we have a trophy that goes around, we have a judging panel, and to Paulette's point, anything that you are doing to get the kids to build and work with their hands and just the teamwork aspect of it, it's glorious to see because I think it's one of the best parts of our program.
Yep, I agree.
Other thoughts or questions before we roll off? I promised I wasn't going to keep you the full hour and that worked out. Okay, well, like I said, we'll package it up probably early next week to get you the whole package. And if you have questions, you know where we are.
Please
Thank you
reach
so
out.
much. Have a great day.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.